And what we talk about is the same old, same old. You've all heard before. I think everybody, no newbies here. As we go through it, the same thing. To let it sink in instead of getting into stories about it. Get to the directness of what it's pointing to. What they call Advaita in Hinduism. And Advaita, translated, means non-duality. And they try and describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two. And that's what we all appear to miss out on. Not everything is the one essence. There is not two. Call it Satchitananda Namarupa. That's how they describe it. Sat is existence, Chit consciousness or awareness, Ananda is loving to be, and the other two factors, Namarupa, the name and form. Now they say that name and form is Maya, illusion. That's the body-mind. But have a look at the other three. Sat, existence. Anyone who is not existing right now. Anyone who is not conscious or unaware. And you'll say, no, I'm conscious, I'm not unaware. Anyone who's not happy to be. Well, nobody wants to be dead, do they? So you're happy to be. So you are already that, because you fit that description. Satchitananda Namarupa. You are already that. And we don't realise or recognise that because we think, taken on the belief we are this person, this individual, this separate entity, and we think we need to become something. Become a higher power or whatever. But what they're pointing to, there's no higher power, there is no God as such, or they call God Atman, oneself. And that's it. There is only the one self, not a personal self. And we've got the concept we are this person, this human being, and we've taken on the personal, seeming personal. And it's that person, concept of a person or idea of a person, is the cause of all our problems. Because we've separated ourselves from the inseparable. If it's one without a second, not two, that's all there is. And everything is already that. And that's the great mantra, I am that. And innately you already know that, because you say, that's the chair I'm sitting in, that's the room the chair's in, that's the space in the room, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's everything is already that, which is all discriminated with the word. Now it tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's all that God is, and another label. All things were made by Him, by the Word. And there was nothing made that was made. And isn't that so? You look at the things in the room, the chair, the table, the carpet, the tree, the flower, the mountains, the hills, it's all that word. All the words, labels we put on them. And we put the label on ourselves, person. And where does that word person come from? Doesn't it come from the ancient Latin persona, the mask? So this person that we're pointing out, even from that point of view, it's only a mask or a concept we've taken on board, but the problem is we've believed it to be what we are. And a belief is not the actual. Your dictionary definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. So we're alleging to ourselves we are this human form, this pattern, shape and form, this human being. We'll have a look at that too. Being human. You call yourself a human being. And if you believe in God, you'll call God the Supreme Being. Now take away the word human and take away the word supreme. Try and separate your beingness without the word. And none of you can say, I am not. You can say it, but wouldn't you realise if I'm saying I am not, the very fact I'm able to say it would imply that I am. So, when you look into it closely, it's all pointing to the fact that of your own being, the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, appearing as, expressing as everything. One without a second, not two. And if there's a belief in two, what's that? It becomes relative to the other. So all our problems of relationship, relative to, is the cause of all our trouble. We've got this problem of relationship. And the male-female relationship can cause a lot of problems. But if you recognise it's the one essence, expressing as everything, and when they merge into each other, it's not the two at all, it's all the one essence. What's it all appear in? Well, they call it space-like awareness. What's space? You realise that space is all around you. The closest things to your eyeball is space. Everything is the content of space. The trees, the flowers, the mountains, the hills, the planets, the stars, are all the contents of space. Can you postulate or think of anything that could be outside of space? What would it be in? And you realise it'd have to be in space. Now space has got no centre to it. You can't find a centre to it. You can't find any circumference to it. It's got no boundaries to it. It is no thing. And yet you can't postulate anything outside of space, so you must recognise that everything is that space, appearing as other than space. So it's a space-like awareness. And when you look at the things that are in space, you're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing, the mountains, the hills, the planets, they're all things. Space is no thing. Can something come from no thing? It can't. So all these things, however they're appearing, are not the reality. The reality is that one essence. That one, what I call, for want of a better term, I don't use the term God, for all the traditions have got different labels for their particular gods, and there are all sorts of different concepts or ideas of what God is. And it's all words or concepts. But the life essence, or the pure intelligence energy that functions this universe, that's breathing you right now, that's beating your heart, growing your hair in your fingernails, digesting your food, replacing cells in the body right now. The body is transient, it's constantly changing. And it's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out, the planets and the stars to form, on all the manifestation. It's all that one essence, patterning, shaping and forming and appearing as everything, and all expressing and seemingly real. It's real in its essence, but the pattern, shapes and forms are not the reality. So it needs to be investigated and seen for yourself. Am I this body? Am I this mind? Am I this person? Well, innately you know you're not. Because you say, my house, my car, my coat. You know you're not the house, the car or the coat, you say my body. Well, who do those car, coat, house and car belong to? Me. Well, who's the me, or what is the me? And you realise all the me is a word. a word we picked up, a concept, which we believe to be this person, this separate entity, this individual. Why do we believe that? Because we've never investigated. When did you begin? You'll say that everything is interrelated. It's all interrelated. Take this body. When did you begin? We'll go back as far as your father and your mother, that animating life essence, that pattern-shaped and formed your father, living from the prana, the air he's breathing and the food he's eating. And that pattern, a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see with your naked eye. But that sperm was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do, intelligence energy. I use that term rather than use the term God. I'll go into it in a minute. That sperm suffused with intelligence knew what to do. And the same in that pattern you call your mother. That animating life essence that fashioned, shaped and formed your mother. In that pattern, the air it's breathing and the food she's eating and all the rest, enabled in that pattern a microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form. Now that egg or ovum attached itself to the wall of the uterus, implying it was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. And the sperm swam to the ovum. It knew what to do. So it was suffused with that intelligence also. And when those two came together, what happened? Merged into each other, and the little embryo began to form, the little fetus, the little embryo, which is what you are to do today. What were you doing about it then, and what are you doing about it right now as this believed in person? You realise that persona, that label we got on it, which is they call, comes from persona, the mask. The mask can't do anything. So what must be doing it? It must be that life essence that you are. Christ told you that a couple of thousand years ago, and he said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. People thought he was talking about himself. He wasn't. He was talking about that I amness, which Nisargadatta tells you, you've got to stay with the I amness. And we think we've got to repeat it all the time as a mantra. But what does that I am represent? It represents the sense of presence, the knowing that you are, that presence awareness. There's an awareness there of being present right now, which translates as the word or the thought. And in the beginning was the word. And that's when we came into existence with the word. But can any of you remember your birth? You can't. You'll say, I was born. But you can't remember your birth. And you don't remember your birth till you're a couple of years old, when you learnt words. So you were living prior to the word. So that means you're prior to this thing we call mind, which is made up of words, concepts. I guess you were before that. And yet we've taken ourselves to be this person, this separate entity, this individual, and believed it. So, if you're not the word or the body, are you this thing called mind? And you say my mind, again, like you say my body. Who are you referring to again? You're referring to that pure life essence, that intelligence energy. Oh, you call it intelligence energy, it's rather than use the term God. Because we've all got different concepts about the belief in the word God. But intelligence energy, intelligence is not your intellects. It is knowing, not your intellects. I know, but it is that knowing. And what's knowing? It's an activity. The ing on it gives us something that's happening right now, like hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, knowing. And you are knowing right now. So it's an activity. Any activity is a movement of energy. So it's vibrating, spontaneously appearing, spontaneously changing, transient, constantly. But we say, my body, my mind. And when you look at this body, what's it made up of? You'll see it's made up of elements: air, earth, fire, water, space. Try and separate yourself from those elements and see how long you'd last without the air, without the water, without the fire, the body temperature, or getting off the earth. So you see you're not separate from any of these elements. And all these elements can be broken down into subatomic particles, into pure energy. So it all can be broken down to that energy, movement. And we take ourselves to be the person, the self, because we pick up words from our parents at about 2.5. Before that you had no words. And we take the word to be real. But if you say, are you the word? You realise the word, when you look at it, is a concept. What's word? Thought. What's thought? Sound, word, vibration. A movement of energy, just the same as the body without those elements. What is it? Can they all be broken down into a vibration, a movement of energy? The space is not, it's a cognising emptiness, but it's not empty of that innate life or intelligence energy. It's suffusing it. And another term for that is awareness. There's nobody who's unaware right now. So if it's awareness we're pointing to, you must be aware. But we can't tell you what, you can't tell me what awareness, you know you're not unaware, but you can't tell me what awareness is. And it's that very existence itself expressing as that concept, a word or idea. And on that existence consciousness comes and all the labels come about, which we enable everything then, further from that. So you are the life. You are the truth. And the scriptural saying is, know the truth will set you free. What do you need to be free from? The belief that you are this person, you are this individual, you are this sense of separation. And we think that this is real, but we've got to become this higher power. We've got to become this godless. We need to meditate. We need to recognise. We need to do all sorts of mantras and things like that to become what we already are, which we don't recognise. Instead of call ourselves human beings, believe in this God, you'll call God a supreme being. Take away the human, take away the supreme, try and separate the beingness, and then you know that I am right now. The great mantra is I am that. And don't you know that already? Because that's the chair you're sitting on, the sofa, that's the carpet on the floor, that's the space in the room, that's the lights, that's the tree outside, that's the flower, that's the mountains, that's the hills. Everything is already that. Which again we discriminate by putting labels on it, to differentiate it. Differentiate the one thatness, the one self. And that's when the problem will start, because we've differentiated and that get this idea that I am this person, this separate entity, an individual. Well, at about 2.5, and the capacity of reasoning develops in you. When we learn words, that's when the separation comes. Because we've taken ourselves to be this person, and that sense of knowing is there, and you look out there and you say, oh, parents have called you little Johnny or little Billy, whatever you might, and you say, I am little Johnny. And you look out there and you say, that doesn't fit little Johnny. I don't know what that is. And when you don't know what something is, you feel insecure and vulnerable. Well, with that sense of insecurity and vulnerability comes the sense of separation is there. And now we think it's me that doesn't know what that is. And I'm separate from it. But I've got to become that, try to become. And don't realise that becoming implies a future time. But if you've investigated, you'll see that time itself is a mental concept. Ask yourself, is there a past if I don't think about it? Investigate and see these things for yourself. And some of you have and really know it. Don't it? Is there a past if you don't think about it? Well, without a thought, can you say there's a past or a future? You can't. But you'll say, I was in the past. And I'll say, yeah, well, try and live a moment ago. Can you go back and live a moment ago? You can't even, if you can't recall it, it's gone. And it can only be recalled now. The same with the future. Can you anticipate a moment and live in the future? What you're going to do when you leave here, or what's your next thought? You can't. You can only imagine and anticipate. And if you're not imagining and anticipating it right now, that's gone for good too. And these things only last a moment. Spontaneous, not even a moment, because that's a section of time also, but a throb or a pulsation or a vibration that's happening spontaneously right here and right now. So there's no such thing as past, no such thing as future, unless you think about it, conceptualise it. And it's always happening in this spontaneous moment. So it's all that. And you are that. I am that. Everything is that. And we've never moved away from it, because they tell you in the scriptures, it's only the one self. Call it Atman. Atman the self. Not a personal self, it's not a separate self. But we've created all these believed in separate personal selves, and the one has seemingly become the many. But it's never moved away from its actuality, which is also always and ever and always and ever will be the timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless, non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness happening in this timeless, spontaneous moment. And you are that. That's what we point out to. That's what we ask you to look upon and investigate and see for yourself. Because nobody can do it for you when you realise there is no one but vibrating patterns of same intelligence energy that you are, though it appears to be many. And it's one, non-duality is one without a second, so all these other appearances, everything is that, but not how it appears. So though it's still going to express and appear as it seemingly does, if you know the truth about it, you're not locked into it the way you were. You see it as coming and going, constantly changing, transient, and you know that. What's your next thought going to be? And you'll say, I don't know. But a thought will appear. And it'll come up and you'll say, I think. As soon as the thought I think comes up, what have you done? You've formed the conceptual belief that it's me, I, the thinking. And the thought, I think this thought, whatever the thought might be, the thought has come up, I'm thinking this thought. So what have you done? you form duality, a subject, a thinker, and the object, the thought. Subject-object is duality. But can there be a thinker without thinking? Work that one out. When you have a look at it, you see no. There can't be a thought if there's no one or nothing to think. The thinking's not going on. Can't be a thought without thinking. And can there be the thinker without the thinking? So the thinker and the thought duality are fictional. The thinking is the actual. Now that doesn't only apply to the thinking, it applies to the seeing. You're seeing right now, you ask, does my eye tell me I see? It doesn't. The seeing is happening through the eye. And the thought I see comes, the hearing, the thought I hear, feeling, the thought I feel, the thought I taste, I touch, I smell, I experience. It's all related to this conceptual image, I. But there are seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, the ing on it. Something that gives it reality. It's a movement. Thinking is a vibration, a movement, an activity. So that's why I call it intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. And there is not one of you here who is not knowing right now. Being, knowing and loving to be. So everybody is that one essence appearing seemingly differently and separately, but it's never changed its true nature. And that's what we lose sight of. That's what you've got to recognise again. We don't have to, but if you want to live in unhappiness and fear and depression and guilt, and that's what happens. You've got this separate entity, me, and have a look at it. It's only me that can be fearful. Only me that can be anxious. Only me that can be depressed or guilty or jealous or envy. Me is the cause of all my psychological problems. And the anxiety, the fear, the stress, the guilt, the shame, remorse, all these things, these conceptual images, are the effects of the cause, me. That's what karma is. They'll hear about karma, or karma is cause and effect. But what if I ask myself the question, can there be an effect if it's not relating to a cause? Or can there be a cause if it's not, what is it, I've got it wrong around, or the right way around, whatever way it is anyway. Can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? Well, there can't be. So I'm not relating to the cause, me. Where are all the effects going to be? They drop away. Because you're not relating, you're not feeding into them, not keeping them going. And where does that leave you? That leaves you what you've been trying to seek, to become awake or aware. It leaves you in that presence awareness, the pure being, the pure knowing, and the pure loving to be. I use the analogy of the clouds and the sun. You go outside on a cloudy day. Would you say the sun's not in the sky? You wouldn't, because you've investigated, you know the sun doesn't leave the sky. But yet you can't see the sun. It's obscured by clouds. When you investigate and ask yourself what forms the clouds, you work it out and see intelligence, you realise that the sun itself forms the cloud. Now the sun doesn't know anything about the clouds. The vastness of the sun is so great it's not interested in anything like a cloud, if it could be. But it's the pure radiance of the sun, the light in which we're sitting in now. You're not sitting in the sun, we're sitting in the sunlight, the light of the sun. So the sun in its radiance, what does it do? It shines of itself, and in that shininess and radiance, what's it do? It evaporates water. Evaporates water from the ocean. The water rises and cools down and condenses and forms a cloud which obscures the sun. Now the sun continues to shine. That's all it knows how to do, is to shine, to radiate. And it'll cool that mist down, that cloud down, and bring it down as rain, or cause a wind to blow, that'll blow it away. But what's there then? The basic space, the clarity is there. In that clarity, the sun shines in its brilliance. And there's affection or warmth in it. Well, liken that to what's going on in your mind right now. Your thinking's going on, and what's it done? It's formed words. And what are words done? They're appearing on that awareness or knowingness, and their mind, what they think called mind, which is nothing but thought, is now seemingly filled with these mental concepts, which are hiding, obscuring the pure presence awareness, the intelligence that you are. So what happens when you recognise and see that the thoughts, feelings and emotions, they're just concepts, vibrations, have no substance or any independent nature? What's going to be there? Like in the sun, there's going to be a lot of clarity there when it's not obscured by the thoughts, feelings and emotions. And you've had taste of that throughout your life, when the clarity's been in it. Everything's fallen into place, the thought has fallen out, when there hasn't been any conceptual going on, by brief instances. And in that there's been a resonance, a sense of being well-being, nothing wrong anymore. And recognise you've had a taste of your true nature. But the thoughts come again. Instead of recognising them and realising them, we lock into them and try and get rid of a thought, a concept with a thought, a concept with a concept. And it doesn't happen, and it won't happen. We try to meditate and do all these concepts, and when you look at it, then you realise there's no one to meditate and nothing to meditate on. That is a natural meditation that's going on without trying to become. It's just happening. You relax into it. And as they say, they let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. And the recognition and knowing and understanding that it is a singularity. What are you going to do? When it's all transient, it's constantly changing. You're going to try and become something when you recognise that you are that being without the supreme being or without the human being. The being, you can't negate the beingness. You can't negate the knowingness of that or the loving warmth and affectionate of that. Nisargadatta puts it, there's nothing wrong anymore. A sense of well-being, being well, when there's nothing wrong. Let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. Rest and relax into that. See how your life changes then. Have a look at what's going on now. Something comes up and you like it. And the things we like, we don't want to go. We want to keep them there. Not realising that no matter how much you love it or how much you want to keep it there, it's transient. It's changing, like everything in your body is changing right now. So is the thoughts. So it's going to change, it's going to go. We don't want it to do, so what do? We try to keep it there by resisting it. Got to keep this one and get rid of the bad thoughts. And resistance is conflict. And conflict makes you unhappy, fearful, anxious and disease. Uneasiness, which is disease. So there's resistance, conflict and disease going on in us daily. Something comes up and you don't like it. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking this. This is another one. I don't want to hang on to this. I want the other. I want the good again. And that resistance is conflict. It brings up the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the guilt, the unhappiness, the shame, the jealousy, the envy, whatever it's about again. So that's what our life consists of, this constant conflict that's going on. And it's going on more and more, and there's less places when it was seen through, where before we took on all the concepts and ideas, it was easier to see through. Now it's considerably come up thoughts working with thought and fighting with thought, And we're learning more words, trying to get rid of it with a word that doesn't happen, and it won't. And they tell you that in the scriptures. They'll say, the peace is when the mind is not. It's beyond the mind. If the peace is when the mind is not, that's what is prior to the mind. When the peace is there. So we'll never ever get peace of mind, and that's what we seek it for, to get. But realise it's naturally there. It's there with you right now, and if there's all sorts of concepts going on and obscuring it, try and step over them. Get around them. You can't pause them for very long because they can't do it. But naturally, in the recognition, they'll sit in the background. And thoughts can come on that. There's still thoughts come up here now and again. Not so much, because it'll drop away after a while. But the thought, when we divide it, good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, we put boundary, but there's no one-ended stick. So each stick has got two ends to it. There's no one-sided coin. Each coin's got two sides to it. And so the thoughts, good and bad, pleasant, painful, have two sides to them. And they're not separate. And that's the trouble. We think they're separate, want one and not the other. But it being not separate, just like day and night, winter, summer, tide, high tide, low tide, all the other things patterning, so the thoughts, if they're not separate, will come back. If you're locked into the thought for a while and don't leave it as it is and let it rest, and it'll come back to the thought free, presence awareness, the existence, pure existence, the pure being. And it'll change again, just like the earth rolling around the sun day and night, so it will continue to do so. But it's not separate. It keeps changing. But now, you're not bound into the word. You don't have to get rid of the word. Just have to recognise and understand that the words are not the real. They're just concepts. Take the word water. Can you drink it? You can't. Can the word fire burn your mouth? It can't. So the word me or I is not what you are. The description's not the described. The map's not the territory. So learn that with all these words we're learning, they're not the real. But they're all appearing in that non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. All pattern, shapes and forms that appear in it play around and disappear. So you are that life itself, not the body or the mind. You are that life, as Nisargadatta says. There is only life. There is nobody who lives a life, and life lives on life. For out of life more life comes. And isn't that a fact? Didn't you come from the life of your parents? And didn't they come from the life to life? Life has not got any beginning, nor can it have any end, because it'll go on as life. But the pattern, shapes and forms appear, play around and disappear in it. But because they are pattern, shapes and forms, they have no substance or any independent nature. They are not troubling that life at all. But we lose sight of the fact and take ourselves to believe that we are the person and miss out on the reality. And as I pointed out before, belief's not the actual. So that's what we point out here. And you've all heard it before, and a lot of you recognise it, most of you here, but there's people on the, what is it, Skype or?
This is Facebook live stream.
Yeah, well, they might have questions or doubts, and if any of you do have questions or doubts, don't hesitate to ask them. Don't be frightened or think, what will they think of me? They'll think I'm stupid or something. Well, maybe they will. But that's their concept. Why should you take delivery of it? So away you go.
we have a question. We have the question from Tanya and few of welcoming messages to everyone. Tanya says, if you recognize you are not me, no sensation that normally would be labeled fear, frustration or sadness never appear again? Or they are just not labeled anything, but still appear? No separate me is found, but the sensations, thought labels, fear, anxiety and frustration still appear. Yeah, so that's a beautiful question, Tanya, because many people may also have that question. And that's a beautiful observation also in the answer to the question, because your direct observation actually answers the question. You know, if you still observe that certain vibrations come through, and maybe even label shows up, but you don't find any meaning, that those vibrations and those labels are not really yours, they're impersonal. And also if you observe animals, or if you see a little baby that doesn't have words, does it ever cry? Yep. Does it smile, laugh? Yep. Sensations, vibrations, just like the weather on the sky, they keep showing up. Which is your observation, which is always the final ultimate answer, direct experience. Whatever other people tell you, flush it in the toilet. Just go to the heart and find your own answer, which you just did, and thank you for sharing it. Did you want to add to it, Bob?
No, you said observation.
Yeah.
Well, observation is it observing, not observer, or the observed. There's fiction.
Yeah.
The observing, just like the seeing, the hearing, the tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, the spontaneous functioning is always and never happening.
Yeah.
Everything is perfectly valid in the appearance, but the appearance itself is not real. It's only seemingly so. A phenomenal manifestation, definition of that is phenomena is that which appears to be. I tell you that in the scriptures. It appears to be. So all this in this room is like the waking dream. As Nisargadatta says, you are dreaming a dream you call the world. Stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is you love one part of the dream and not the other. He says love all of it or none of it. And if you do that, the rest will be taken care of by the same life essence that brought you into existence, that's breathing you right now, beating your heart, growing air in the phone. You'll take it. But we don't. We take it to be the person instead of we love one part of it and not the other. But this dream, you don't realise it. When you go to sleep at night and have a dream, you can be in the mountains, the hills, the cities, anywhere at all, doing all sorts of activities and everything going on. You wake up in the morning, where does it all go? All disappears, but there's very little might recall, but you won't recall that for long. But realise when you look into it, your body had not moved off the bed throughout the night. No words had come out of your mouth. It was a dream, it wasn't real. But what you don't realise is we wake up to this living dream, this waking dream. Because when you wake up in the morning, in that dream of night, your body had never moved off the bed, nothing had happened, no words had come out of your mouth, and the mountains, the hills, the cities, all those things have disappeared. When you wake up in the morning, this waking dream seemingly continues from where it left off the night before. And the mountains, the hills, and the city, and the rooms you're in, they're all still there. And the bodies and minds seem to continue from where it left the night before. But this is a living dream. It's the same life essence that's functioning, patterning, expressing it, everything, and appearing into all these pattern shapes and forms. But you are the reality. And in its absoluteness, what can you add to the absolute? Nothing. What can you take away from it? Nothing. But with nothing added to it, nothing taken away, it's got a form, patterns to express through. If it didn't form patterns out of itself, how could there be any expression of the absolute? Because nothing can be added to it, nothing can be taken away from it. So all these body, mind, things in this manifesto, all no thing, all appearing in space. Space is empty. Did I point this out before? I don't know, an earlier. Space is empty. You can't find a centre to it, can't find a circumference, any spot at all in it where it has any boundaries to it. And everything that is the content of space. You can't postulate anything which would be outside of space. What would it be in? It would have to be in space. So space is no thing. And yet all this content appearing in space are things. You're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing. All the content are things. Can something come from no thing? Space is no thing. We say nothing, we think it's a vacuum or a void. So it's not that, but it's no thing, meaning it has no pattern, shape or form. All these pattern, shapes and forms, all these expressions are appearance only seemingly so. So something cannot come from no thing. So all this manifestation, again, though it's appearing as solid, real, substantial, it's still no thing. And you and I and everything else is that. That is all there is. And innately you know that, because you say, that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower. Everything is that. What has changed it? The Word. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. That's all that God is a word. We put labels or words on everything and discriminate it with the Word. Drop the concept, drop the word. And you don't have to. What's there then? What can you say without the word? Nothing. But if you disappeared, you haven't. If you've fallen apart, no. Still appearing to be so. And know the truth. And the truth will set you free. So go again.
There is a comment from Keith. He says, it is very simple and obvious when you look at it. Thanks, Bob. And Joseph says, how to go to the level of heart?
Well, you know what heart to heart is. When it's head to head, so you're not communing with another, just bang, bang, it's a clash. And you'll have your concepts and I'll have mine, it'll be head to head. But you know what heart to heart is, because you say, you talk to somebody that's in a bad way or something and you resonated with them, with the compassion, the love, the warmth went out, and you'll say, naturally, my heart went out to them when you explain to somebody else. And when the heart went out, we think heart is the physical heart, but it's not. Heart meaning the core of your being, the core of anything is the heart of it. And the heart is a symbol of the spirit. The spiritual essence that you are went out and resonated with itself, the spiritual essence of the other. And then there was communication. Head to head, no.
Mm-hmm. And Bill says, love space, love you all. And yeah, Bill has birthday today, so he reminded us in the morning in a comment that he's unborn, and yet that is the truth. That is the truth of who we are. We are unborn. But if not for the form, that wouldn't be realized. So appreciation for the form and love for the form is like was it Kabir says by worshipping a form?
Yeah, Kabir. No, it wasn't. It was.
One of them.
Tukarama, I think. Was a bhakti. Moved into mantras in front of. He says, by worshipping the form, I attained the formless. So he got through it through being a bhakti, through the love of the believed in conceptual God, whatever it was, Brahman, whatever it is.
And it's also such a beautiful excuse to celebrate the formless behind the form when there is this one day, one special day. We're going to have Bob's birthday in about a month, and again, he's unborn. But if not for the form, none of that would have happened. So, appreciation for it, why not? And Tanya says here, beautiful cut, the sensations are impersonal. That is becoming more and more clear. They are just happening spontaneously. That is crystal clear. Thank you. And thank you, Bob, for that beautiful response and expanding on what Kat shared so clearly. No more thoughts to reply with are appearing now. Just soaking in us this clarity. Beautiful, Tanya. And thank you for sharing those thoughts, observations, and questions, because yes, they also impersonal, and they appear in, it's almost like the electromagnetic field around. You put the radio and you tune in, and the question comes. A lot of people may tune in to the same question and get them just cleared, thanks to your contribution. So if anyone else would like to share something or ask question or contribute, remember, it is not personal. It may be a lot of people out there listening and wanting to hear it, just in the way you transmit it, or you ask, or you prompt Bob to answer. So if anyone feel like coming in, you happy, Julia? Oh, cool. I'll just get good. Get this one hooked in. Ups. Oh, thank you, Hyman. Let's get this one out there. Ups, yes. You grab it. Here. Cool.
Somebody was commenting or asking earlier about the moving from the head to the heart, I think. And I think something I've heard Bob mention previously, just about affectionate awareness.
Yeah.
I like that pointer. I wanted to throw that one into it.
Beautiful.
Because I think that's like the affection, if I were to bring up affectionate awareness or something being affectionate, we could have thoughts of affection or whatever, but it's more of a something you feel here, isn't it? It's more something you experience if you're affectionate. Yeah? So
for the joy. But that's still the same Satchitananda, being, knowing, loving to be. Awareness of being is bliss. Affectionate, aware of it. They're different ways of expressing the same thing. Taste them all. Anybody that doesn't love to be. None of you want to be dead right now.
Would you continue, Julie? Yeah, no, this way. No. Sorry. I'll get it this way. Here. Oh.
I dropped the topic yesterday. I was walking my dog, and a woman stopped me asking how old my dog is. She's 13, so she's a senior dog, and mentioned her senior dog that had passed. And I started, but I didn't want to continue because it just didn't seem right. But I was just like, yeah, well, you know what you fall in love with is here. Sorry?
Yeah. She has to speak up for you. This doesn't transmit to you. This transmits.
Sorry, I'm not speaking loud enough for you.
No. She's got
Okay.
ears on.
Yes.
Revenge is sweet. Very much go on.
There was just saying there was a woman that, her dog had died, and I was just saying, well, that, that pattern, I guess if we were to do taxidermy on it, you would still have the form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's not what we're in love with, really. I mean, it'd be kind of like, with most of us, we think of, like, if I taxidermy my dog when it dies, it's kind of gross. So we're like, ew. Because we can taxidermy your cats when they go, but it's not just, be like, that's not what you loved. Yeah. It's what we're falling in love with, is whatever is animating the taxidermied. It's a weird metaphor, but
I went to the football the other day, and my team wasn't going too well. I could feel this emotion coming up, and I remember the last time I was in this situation, you look out across the MCG, and between the light towers, just connect with the space, the spaciousness, and the emotion dissolved. So the game goes on. My team keeps performing poorly, and then this practice continued. So at the end, in the last quarter, when it looks like it's all going to be over and going to be very disappointed, and that mood didn't take hold. And what did develop was an acceptance of the situation, and even a acknowledgement of some of the strengths of the other team. And so it's all over. Most of the people wearing the same colours as I was were pretty dejected. So I thought, well, I'm going to catch a tram, go home, walk over to the tram. But I think I'll have a couple of drinks before I leave, and I'll just hang around and wait till the crowd goes. So I went downstairs, and I found this bar downstairs, and it was very, very loud and very noisy, and they had screens up, and there were commentators picking the game apart, and very noisy. And I just started to sort of relax and just rest in my own presence. And I could feel there was, in this relaxation, there was a lot of equanimity developing. And then there was a chap a couple of metres from me. I was just standing in the middle of the room, and I said, "What time do they close the bar here?" And he said, "Well, depends, about 7:30. We'll look at the crowd, we'll see if the staff are just standing around doing nothing, and then we might make a judgment call." I said, oh yeah. And I said, "What's your role here?" And he said, I'm the host of this room, and my job is to just walk around, make sure everybody is behaving." And he said, "Like that fellow over there." He said, we've become very concerned because there have been these brawls outside the stadium recently. He said, "So we're very concerned about people who've had too much to drink and behaving badly." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's understandable." And then he started to talk about the steps that would occur, and at some point he'd talk to the bar manager, and between them they'd make another judgment call, and then they'd decide, well, perhaps we'll close the bar, or in the case of this fella that was getting a bit sort of wobbly, we might bring in the security. Oh. And then suddenly he just said, "I've got to go." And he took off. And so then I'm just standing there and I'm feeling very, very settled, balanced. And this fellow comes up to me. I was sort of near the bar, just going to order a second drink. He comes right up to me, and I thought there's something odd about this fellow. He had very short black hair, and he looked like Gomez.
From the Adams family.
Gomez Adams, yeah. And he had sort of funny teeth and came right up to me and started telling me a story, and it was sort of related to the game, but his gestures were, you know, it was like a caricature. So when he stretched his arms out, he stretched them right out, expressing the story he was telling. And at some point, when his arms weren't wide enough, he jumped sideways. And yet I didn't feel any rejection to him. I felt, this is weird, but I just, you know, joined in the conversation. And then I thought, yeah, there's something weird going on. So that conversation finished and I left, walked out and started to walk up to the tram stop. And then there were a series of these events that happened that didn't seem to have a cause, but they were, again, just caricatures of people coming up, talking to you out of, you know, for no reason. And then at another point, the tram stopped, and a group of about 6 young women jumped on, young girls, schoolgirls. So they weren't in school uniform, but they were obviously schoolgirls, about 16, 17. And they come on the tram, and then with the momentum of the tram, they all sort of turn in different directions at the same time and bump into each other. And they're all giggling and bumping, and this is weird. And the next stop, they get out. They disappear. They get out. So it was sort of like, it was like a weird comedy going on, and yet without, at the same time, there was no feeling of unease or, yeah, it was obviously this is a dream.
Yes.
So I just wanted to relate that story.
Yeah, beautiful. You were space for that all happening without judgment, rejection, preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. I have a couple of comments from people who are with us. Thank you. There is... Rohan says, "Hi Bob and Kat, yes, the form is transient, but we are grateful for the life that expresses through these Bob and Kat forms. May they continue for many more years. Amen." And I have another one here. Primali says, "Well said, Julia." And JB says, "Hi everyone. A couple of weeks ago, Peter was pointing out to a person that basically seeking to understand this via mind is fruitless. I had noticed the same thing as well, except have no idea how to put it into words. A lot of teachers, including Bob, says this. It is like it is seen that all attempts to get this mentally is eventually seen to be problem, and either burnout or frustration can remove the seeker mind, or sometimes seeking starts again after a break from it. I'll apologize for the wall of text. Facebook won't allow paragraph since I am on the phone. Much love to you all. Thank you, JB. Would you like to comment, Bob?
What was it again? I missed it.
It was about, that Peter was pointing out that seeking, finding the answer in the mind, this is in your words, can't find the answer in the mind. So seeking is fruitless and pointless. So perhaps relaxing the seeking may happen. And he says that attempts to get is seen as fruitless. And eventually seen to be the problem, either burnout or frustration can remove seeker's mind, or sometimes seeking starts again.
What you resonate with, something you might hear and resonate, it's sort of a sense that it's what they're hearing is what necessary to him. That'll go on of itself.
Yeah.
And the resonance means that it's working in you anyway, even if you lose sight of it for a time. It's working because it's bringing changes about in the way you're functioning.
So there is nothing else that can be done about it rather than just keeping to transmit that frequency which may wake up your heart and resonate. Like if you remember what you are, who you are, and seeking mind is of less importance. I mean, if you are in love with the reality, with being, with, like Rose was saying, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, being space for all that movie of life, if you actually find the delight in it, if you develop a taste in that, if you fall in love with that, you automatically deprive that seeking mind of attention. Automatically, it's not that much of that attention available for engaging as the character with another characters. So it really is, Bob keeps just hammering from every side possible to just bring about that recognition that you are not the thinking, you're not the body, you're not that, don't worry about that, this is not important. What's important is right in front of your eyes, is beating your heart, is here. Put your heart where it belongs, but it is not an instruction to follow. It's not that there is anything that individual can do to become or to free itself from the mind or to silence the mind. It is the other way around. It is the non-doing. So if the attention is engaging with thinking, it is really about disengaging, relaxing that attention, stopping that attention from going into the drama. It is not a doing, it is the cessation of the doing that brings about that relaxed natural state. Like beautiful when Ross was explaining, sitting in a football, feeling all the disturbance, not only his own, but also probably about 50 or 100,000 other people. That's a strong energy field. But still shifting the attention and engaging with the present moment rather than the story, oh, how horrible it is, it shouldn't have happened. But just being a space, holding a space, because ultimately this is what you are. The being is pre-sensory. It doesn't have any shape, form, vibration, feelings. Even the feelings appear on that space-like awareness. Just returning to it is the only way. And I see there's a few more comments, so I'll shut up and read it. Byron says, trying to get it mentally is the way because it will send the seeker insane after a while. Good one, Byron. Thank you. And British Julia says, no thought is not conscious. Can a thought ever be aware? Yeah. Yeah, good point. Can the thought be conscious or aware? Can the space be conscious of aware? Only through the means of the vehicle. No thought is conscious. And Byron says the seeker will lose his mind soon enough and just needs to try harder. Yeah, the seeker, keep trying until you get exhausted. Yeah, that's a funny way to look at it. And John says, Bob's enlightenment, permanent self-loss, hair salon is open for business. Look at the big, shining, empty space where that head is. Lots of love to you guys. Thank you, John. And John says, well said, Kat, regarding simply shifting attention or disengaging that attention. Yes, it is too simple. It's non-action. It is the thing. Anyone want to jump in? Heyman, did you want to say something? I see you smiling.
Yes, later I will explain how transparency can increase intensity of action during the time, but I will speak later. Thank you.
Anyone?
I'll just speak because no one's speaking. But games are, and everyone knows this, but games are really interesting actually, because they're completely made up, and yet look what happens once they're fully established, and when you get like a full crowd of especially opposing forces with each other, one barracking for one side and the other barracking for the other, and the level of emotion and drama and, you know, commentary and analysis and then even, you know, violence at the end because you lost, and the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing is just made up to begin with. So it's a good example of how we get caught up in our projections, and the whole thing is just literally made up. I mean, there are certain laws that are in this realm that are consistent, so those laws will and do function, but we overlay the whole drama on top of it, saying this is that or this isn't that, or I like this or I don't like that, and so on. And anyway, it's just a good example of how all our dramas are just clinging to one, having established a preference for one side or another, and then kind of fighting for it, and then we just get more and more embedded in it, and then that brings up all the disturbances and everything. So yeah, anyway, I just thought extend your game thing.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor for life.
Yeah.
Come on, anyone? Michael? Cool.
Just on the cartoon thing as well, like I felt that the day Donald Trump got elected, when I saw that, I thought, this isn't real. It just can't be real. And then I thought, well, it won't last. He couldn't last. And then the world just progressed from that point for me, just to be more and more like a cartoon or unreal. I mean, what's happened over the last couple of years, and I would just look at it all and I go, well, that's just insane. That's just, I won't talk about any of that, but yeah. But just the idea of a cartoon, that's really been, I can't take it seriously anymore.
Do you want to check that? Yeah, go. So long as it's not a really harsh judgment, you can see it with the lightness of it, and then you don't suffer.
All that's coming to mind is the opportunity of everything. Like, I don't know, I'll try to explain that everything offers. I had a friend in the U.S. who one time she and I were commiserating about similar experiences we had as landlords. And I had rented to my apartment to a friend who thought she'd take advantage of the friendship opportunity and try to get discounted rent, and it was a bad experience. It just didn't work. And my friend, who was also a landlord, she'd rented to a relative who also took advantage of the situation and didn't pay and damaged her property and all that. And when she told me the story, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened. And she said, I'm not. It was an incredible release. So to me, I guess what I got from that was that whenever some misfortune or discomfort or lack of equanimity shows up, there's the opportunity, which may not present itself without that. You know what I'm saying? That when it comes up and you move from here back down to here with affectionate awareness, and you let go or welcome, more specifically, whatever it is that with affectionate awareness that you're going through, then the emotional upset that was coming on moves on and dissolves. And then the same kinds of things just don't push your buttons quite as much. It was a quote that I liked from somebody else once who used to say, it's not that people or situations push your buttons. That's not the problem. The problem is you have so many buttons. And every time, I don't know, I just see it as an opportunity when it's, the opportunity to look, and I don't get stirred as much because it's easier to just stay. It's a reminder to come back to here. Everything is. It's all that. Anyway, I'm babbling, but I'm trying to help the space, but it's similar. It's like coming back to here and out of here. It's always an opportunity.
You dissolve the button. You're seemingly pushed.
Yes.
And there's no buttons.
No, there never was a button. But it never was a button.
Okay. Yeah.
There never was a button. But that's what's seen. When the button is, the seeming activation of that button or whatever is observed, it's seen that there never was a button, and the button, whatever, it's dissolved.
Next time something comes up, you'll see it's dissolved before you get into it, and sort of bypass all those things.
Yeah, and it never doesn't even look that button. I like the metaphor of the button because you can diffuse it. You know what I mean? It deactivates. It's just a nice metaphor. When it's been deactivated, it just doesn't. Yeah, like you said, you don't even see it. The button is just. Yeah.
Can't shoot the arrow, no target. Yeah, so the target's gone. So you can't shoot the arrow, hit the target without, with the arrow without the target. So, but the other one I find one of the most beautiful things with respect to that is realizing that you're the only one in here, so to speak. So you have full control of how you respond to all the seeming things hitting you, and so it's you have full control over what side to take if you want to take a side. But better still, the side to take is the recognition of what you really are, what you ultimately are, the awareness, the untouched, untouchable, unstained, never stained. It's never nothing's ever taken away from it. It can't be destroyed. It's like the water can be muddied, but the water's actually still containing the mud, so the water's still pure. All of that. So knowing that you're the only one in here, and so that everything that's happening, you have the choice to actually go back to that, go back to your pure being, or to or to react. And if you react, you're going to just create more drama, more problems. You're giving energy to the negative issues and grasping and the unhappy type things that are occurring in you. Or if you let it go, then you're doing the opposite. And the truth will set you free. Thing is, again, recognizing what the truth is, what the enduring, knowing, untouched, perfect, pure, wonderful, loving, blissful being that you are. So the recognition that you have full control over it's your choice. And that one guy, Lester Levinson, as you know, used to say there is such a thing as can't. Sorry, there's no such thing as can't, but there is such a thing as won't. So that's So we recognise that we can, but sometimes we're just no. I'm not going to. Like, this one is too big. This one is too much. I'm not going to accept this one. And that's when it's like the little demon of our own mind telling us that we can't, but we can. And so.
You want to comment?
don't you think that the self that's supposedly in control or has the choice is part of the narrative self as well, the ongoing self-referencing limited nature of what mind seems to be as a kind of facsimile of all that is? You know, it's like, to me, I recognise that storytelling mind that is constantly wanting to take over, if you like, for want of a better way to point it out. But, you know, just in the recognition of that, I'm no longer, I don't know, there's the narrative mind again referring to something, but you know, in reality there is only you know, that the totality of awareness, and that's it. You know, whenever if one recognises that the narrative mind is an action, the storytelling mind, which is a kind of self-perpetuating nothingness, it's self-referencing all the time. Where am I? What am I saying? Who are people what are people thinking about me? How can I improve the way I do this or respond to that or whatever? You know, all this is all just the same. It's just the same stuff. Now, there's nothing bad about it, but it's just a very limited place to be, really. So, you know, that's all I've got to say.
I was going to babble on a little bit about that word choice.
A couple of comments.
But you can go into the comments, it's okay.
Don't speak that slowly.
I don't know if maybe I'm mishearing sometimes, but when I hear that word choice, it brings up that belief in there's my choice, I choose. Well, I'm choosing to be whatever Hitler does. You know, I'm choosing everything. So there's no personal me that chooses everything. When I start to believe that there's a me that's choosing, then I believe there's a you that's choosing, that there's anybody separate choosing. I start to go into judgment, you know, beat you or myself up, you know, because I chose this, or, you know. And when I let go of the idea that anybody in particular is making a choice to do or be anything, that judgment dissolves, because there's no more blaming or giving credit to anybody as the choice maker. Anyway, that's just all I felt like saying about that.
So what you're kind of indicating, I guess, is that in order for that situation to exist in the first place, there needs to be a belief in me, and with that comes my preferences. This isn't how my life is supposed to be working out. Or so you're saying that if the me is removed, then those issues won't arise in the first place because there's nothing for them to bump up against, so to speak.
Yeah, like, you know, it's the me that takes on a problem, right? Yeah.
So the me's like the linchpin.
Yeah, the me is me. When I think we're
in a me, the image me.
Yeah. And when there's a holding on longer than a toddler would, you know, I think there's a me that's holding on. You know, otherwise we'd let it go.
So there's no me. There's nothing for anything to hit.
That's right. And there's no one to hold on, and no one to let go, and no place for it to land. You know, and including all the judgments, the respect, nothing. That's yeah. Yeah, no self, no problem.
Bob was.
Says in Mooji, no discriminating thoughts arise, the whole mind ceases to be.
Yeah, and beautiful, Julia, beautiful point. Yes. Well, you go.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all? Okay. Yeah, because I also been through that idea as a seeker that there is a choice to be made. I can either be conscious or not, or fall into the story. Oh my God, what a self-torture it was. At the end of every day, I was beating myself up. What a stupid bitch I was, that I could only stay conscious for 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here. And all of the days I wasted. I was not worthy of love. I was bad. I was evil. I was shaming and blaming myself for taking wrong decisions, making wrong choices. That amplified the suffering thousandfold. The idea that I can make a decision or choice and I'm making the wrong one. My God, this is the core of the human suffering. This is me. I'm not good enough to take a right decision, to behave in a way that would be optimal for the life, God, consciousness, love, to express whatever it is. This is the painful, stressful story that we question here. And when we see that there really isn't anyone that is taking decision, making choices, life just unfolds as it should. Through the flower, it creates a fragrance. Through the person, it creates a song or chat or action, whatever it is. But there is no one there who is responsible. If we look for responsibility at all, we have to include absolutely whole universe to the last speck of dust. Because guess what? They all one. They're not separated. We can't say that this caused that, but that one doesn't, because they're not separated. It's only the labels that separate the things. So the whole universe causes everything. And as I appear in your universe, you appear in my universe, the collective universes, they are personal world, so-called, the dream. And there is multiverse of all those multitude of dreams. But all of them are interconnected, interrelated, and inseparable. Only via labels and beliefs we separate them. But the moment the belief is withdrawn or is stopped, the moment we go to sleep, all that disappears. Or the moment we pause the thought, or we delight in a piece of chocolate and forget about everything else. In any moment when the conceptualizing of separation doesn't appear, conceptualizing of being separate body doesn't appear. I'm not it, I'm not the body, I'm not separate, I'm not the self. And that's the ease of being. But I have another comment here from Mirella, who says, because we're getting over time, so there is a preference to sit with Bob's pointing for hours on end, and resistance arises when life calls for duty. It feels like emptiness taking the shape of the doer. Me gets frustrated. Any pointers? Is the me get frustrated, or is just the vibration of frustration moving through? And if you take a label, that vibration will change very fast. It's just a wave coming across the ocean. A little bit of a light wind blew, and there is some sort of a vibration. If you don't call it frustration, and you don't claim it as mine, you will just...
Choices are made, deeds are done, but there's no doer or chooser doing it.
And that natural resistance, like when you watch the animals, you watch the dog that have fun chasing a ball outside, and now it's called home. It doesn't want to go. And, no. But that's just the feeling naturally arising in that space and expressed through that body of the dog. So you feel frustration. That's beautiful. You're falling in love with emptiness. That's a wonderful place to be.
You don't claim doership.
Yes.
What's going to happen?
Don't claim doership. Yeah, the me doesn't get frustrated.
It will resolve itself.
And
then the belief is, I did that. When it resolves itself, but it doesn't. It's happening.
A lot of people think of it as an excuse. Like, I won't go there. We're running over time. Sorry.
Okay, I'll just read one last comment from Kiran. She says, I feel that so much, Kat. This is exactly where I feel I am at the moment with the self-blaming. Yes, Kiran, just give us a call. We give you a sharp, nice reminder. Yeah, and look at this. Self-blaming is also just a wave arising in the ocean. Don't take it personally. Just see it as completely impersonal habit, which has your best interest at heart,
only when you stay with the heart and you see that best interest and you don't follow it and you don't create a story and you don't self-punish, then you stay in the heart rather than going in the head. You know, motivation, self-blaming, I want to do better. How cute, how sweet. But stay with that sweetness rather than go and punish yourself. And yes, catch up with us. And did you wanna say what you were saying something, Juliana?
I don't even remember. Must not have been that important.
Okay, so I think we are ready for Sophia's. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.